I'm joined now by the Chief Executive of the Batten Disease Family Association, Liz Brownnutt. Liz, thank you very much for coming in to join me. It is hard to see why NICE, with all this waste in the NHS, seems to have no care for some of the sickest children in our country.
It's a terrible situation that we're in. To have this going forward, this inequity in access, to be diagnosed with such a deadly disease and to be told that there is a treatment available, but you're not going to be able to access it. It feels like we've made so many strides forward in this treatment and providing treatments for ultra-rare disease such as CLN2, and now we're going to be going backwards. And, you know, it creates a scenario as well where a child will be diagnosed on the 31st of December and they may be a little progressed in the disease, but they will have permanent access for life. And maybe a few days later, their younger sibling may be diagnosed in a much better health state and they will be condemned to death. And how can we put a family through that situation?
It is such a terrible disease and awful for the parents to watch, because the baby develops normally and learns to walk and talk, and then at the age of about 2 begins to lose the abilities that it's just developed, and then with this very short life expectancy. But Brineura basically stops the disease in its tracks. We don't know if that goes on forever, and there are problems with eyesight, but that with other symptoms, it basically brings it to a halt.
It does, and it's a transformative treatment. As you say, it's proven to slow down the progression of the disease, the onset of disability, improve symptoms and quality of life. So it enables children to live longer and to live better. But the earlier in the disease that it's diagnosed for children to start treatment, the more effective it is. And we've got a couple of children in the UK who were diagnosed pre-symptomatically because their older sibling received a diagnosis, because of course we don't have newborn screening. And these children are changing the trajectory of the disease and carving their own path.
And this is really important, isn't it? Because it's a genetic disease. So if a sibling has it, the chance of having it is much higher. And that the one thing, as you're pointing out, that's absolutely known is the earlier the treatment starts, the better the prognosis. The drug doesn't reverse any of the effects of Batten disease. It brings it to a halt. It
does. And if we had a newborn screening programme, I don't think we'd be sitting here discussing this issue, because children would be getting picked up earlier, able to start straight away and having a much better chance in life.
And the drug is expensive, but the number of children each year is really very small. And this is what seems to me to be so unfair, that nobody can pretend that the NHS spends money well. And yet with all that waste, it can't look after some of the sickest children.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I mean, we're talking about 3 to 6 children being diagnosed across the whole of the UK each year, which, when you think about it, doesn't have a huge impact on the NHS budget. But we also know that the NHS has substantial buying power and they have the ability to negotiate lower prices for medicines with manufacturers. But I think, above all things, we need to remember that these are children that we're talking about, and this is their lives, and it's about their quality of life, and there shouldn't ever be a price tag on that.
No, and what would you suggest people do? How can they help you in your campaign to try and influence the government to overturn this decision?
Well, we just need to raise awareness of what's happening. It feels impossible that both sides, NICE and the company, have not been able to find common ground over the last few months when discussing future diagnosed children. We are holding both parties accountable, and we're urging them to come together and find a solution, a way forward, because there's children's lives at stake.
And every day after the 31st of December, when children don't receive it, is a day when they may deteriorate. So it's very important that it's sorted out before then.
Yeah, children don't have time on their side. It's precious. The time is so precious.
The last time, prior to the decision in 2019 to fund the drug, there was quite a lot of cross-party support. I worked with a number of Labour MPs to try and encourage. Actually, it was then Matt Hancock, who was the Health Secretary, was extremely sympathetic, very supportive of trying to get the funding. NICE has always been the obstacle. Have you got any sense that any groupings are forming to try and campaign once again to get the funding for this drug.
Yeah, we do have a group of very supportive MPs. We came down to Parliament in March and our very good supporter, Lord Ian Botham, organised a parliamentary drop-in, and he invited the MPs of the families to come and speak to us. And so we've had good support from them, but we're calling on them now. And we're calling on the Health Secretary because he has the power to reverse this decision. So we're absolutely needing all the support we can get.
And it is frustrating when a quango, a bureaucracy that is completely unaccountable, can just make these decisions without having any form of representation.
It's very difficult, and it's a very difficult process, actually, and I think that's what's letting us down. It's the way that they appraise these medicines for rare diseases through the highly specialised technology process. That's what's penalising us and letting us down.
And it doesn't really seem to work because they have a certain amount that they will allocate per quality of life indicator. But this drug bursts through all their modelling of the quality of life improvements. So it just gets to the maximum level and they say, oh, we can't have any more than that. So they've sort of warped the system so that it almost can't come up with the answer that is positive. And so they need to apply some intelligence to it rather than just going by some system.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about the long-term benefits and the cost effectiveness. And when you've got such a small patient population, that's impossible to measure. Even after 5 years of a managed access agreement, which was hampered by COVID as well.
Yes.
There is that issue too. So, yeah, it feels very unfair.
Well, it's very hard to have long-term information on a new drug.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Liz, thank you so much for joining me. I wish you every success in this campaign. I think it's really important. We've had some rights reply. The NICE guidance states the new evidence included data from clinical trials and from people having treatment in the NHS in England. This evidence suggested that Brineura slows disease progression. It's good news, but although it's an effective treatment, there is uncertainty about how effective it will be after long-term use. Based on the proposed price of the medicine, the preferred cost-effectiveness estimates were substantially above the range NICE considers an acceptable use of resources for an highly specialised technology. Professor Jonathan Benja, the NICE Chief Medical Officer and Deputy CEO, said, we are deeply disappointed that the company decided not to enter into commercial negotiations with the NHS England, having reached an agreement that maintains continued access for patients who were started on treatment during the managed access progress. The company's decision means the committee was not presented with a cost-effective price that would have allowed newly diagnosed children to benefit